Hello and welcome to Our Time.
Lovely to have your company once again. Janice, what an exciting jam-packed action program with...
Music today?
Yes, we have a band on. Mind you, it's only one person in the band.
I know.
However, and that's Dan Burt,
Yes.
the one-man band, but a person I've been looking forward to talking to for a long time because Adelaide has the great honour of being the second largest fringe festival in the world.
Against Edinburgh.
And I think our first guest may make it the largest fringe festival in the world before too much longer. Welcome, Heather Kroll.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you. So you're now the CEO and director of the Adelaide Fringe.
That's right, yes.
And this has been for how long?
So I've just completed my second fringe, so I will hopefully do a few more. But yeah, I'm in the middle of my contract and I've done 2 fringes.
And before that, though, Heather, you were in London, is that right?
Yes, in Britain, yes.
Doing...
I was running a film festival over there, and before that I had also worked at the Fringe for many years. I had I guess my career has been film and festivals. They're the 2 sort of focuses of my career. So
but where did it start for you, though? Was this something... What did you envisage that your career was going to be?
So when I finished school, I went to live in London and I worked for some years at Sadler's Wells Theatre, which is a really fabulous theatre in the West End of London. Now it's been completely refurbished and is stunning. And I loved working there. I worked in all sorts of areas, in the box office, in the front of house, and all, everything around. And then I came back and I started studying here at the University of South Australia, and I was doing a communications degree and decided to major in documentary. So I majored in documentary production. Filmmaking, yes. And when I graduated, I was fortunate enough to secure some commissions over the years from SBS Television, ABC, Channel 4 over in England as well, and BBC as well. So I was straight out of the degree and making some... I made a documentary in Samoa, which was...
it's amazing, though, sorry to interrupt you, but the fact that you actually did your degree and then you sort of were in it. You were in the midst of everything that you wanted to be a part of.
Life sort of takes you like that, though. If you've got the ability to do that, it's amazing. I mean, when we were young, we just sort of suddenly fell into the workforce and we were performing and doing shows, and we thought that's how it was. Nobody knew how hard it was.
Exactly. But when you go into film, I mean, it's like, well, I think I did decide that I didn't want to start off being an assistant on feature films or anything like that. I just wanted to go straight in and try and be a producer-director, which obviously may have failed, but luckily it didn't. And I had a lot of great years working on lots of different documentaries. Made documentaries in the South Pacific and on the far west coast of Australia and in the APY lands and all sorts of places.
I'd like to talk to you about the South Pacific one, but could I just take you back even before that?
Yes.
When you were a little girl, did you have signs of this? Were you taking photos or did you have a video camera?
Directing your friends?
Yes, I was always directing the friends, yes, always. I remember I grew up in Whyalla, which is a dry, desert, dusty industrial town in the north of South Australia. And I remember my neighbour, she had lots of young kids, and the second neighbour as well. And I just used to sort of direct all of them in building adventure playgrounds. And she always laughs and says, "Oh, we used to watch you being the director, even when you were 8 years old."
But it's true. When you see this in young people, it should be encouraged, not discouraged, sort of thing, because you really don't know where it's going to go. Talk about the Samoan documentary, because I remember seeing that and I've been absolutely fascinated ever since.
Oh, so you saw it. That was, well, it was a long time ago. It's almost 20 years ago I made that film, I think. But I was working for UNICEF, making documentaries for UNICEF throughout the South Pacific. And I became very good friends with the Fa'afafines in Samoa, which is the boys that are raised as girls.
Fa'afafines.
The Fa'afafines.
What a lovely word.
Yeah, it's a good name, isn't it?
But they don't appear to be boys when they're born. That's the...
They're boys, but they, it's very accepted as a third gender in a way. I mean, it's not, that's a very rough way of summarising it, but it's not seen as unusual. I mean, when you get to Samoa, there's Fa'afafinis everywhere. Like they'll meet you at the airport, they'll be your tour guides at the bus, they'll check you in at the hotel, they'll serve you in a restaurant, and so they're just everywhere. It's not considered as an unusual situation. So I became good friends with some of them, and then I talked to them about, shall we make a film, and that's what we did. So it was great, and it's had a great life, that film, actually. It still is. Even all these years later, I still get emails from festivals, can we show your film? And they're still showing it. It's still on the circuit. It's being used at universities.
But that's a good thing, because what you've done in the past, your body of work in the past can still be accessed and still inform and enjoyed. So what made you come back to Adelaide? The job?
Well, I love the Adelaide Fringe. So way back, some years, even around that time that I was, making documentaries, I was also running a thing called Shoot the Fringe, which was, you remember the old Super 8 reels? We used to get 50 of those, and we used to hand them out, and we used to ask everyone who we handed the film to, make a film on Super 8 of the Fringe. And then they'd give us back the reel, and we would process it, and we would set up a big outdoor screen somewhere and just project them as part of the Fringe. So somewhere in my little studio, there's a lot of old Fringe on Super 8, which I should dig it up actually. But so I was
a documentary in the making.
Probably, I should look it up. It's probably got some great images. But so I was always working with the Fringe. I managed a venue in the Fringe in 1992, I think it was, when Stomp came to Adelaide. Yes, so I managed the Star Club.
Yes.
And Stomp came, and they do credit Adelaide Fringe as being the launch pad for their career.
Interesting.
They had started in Edinburgh Fringe and had a sort of okay season, arrived in Adelaide, and they just didn't know what hit them. And in a way, Adelaide didn't either. Something happened, and everybody was going to see Stomp. It was
amazing.
They put on late night, midnight shows. They did everything, and they still couldn't put on enough shows. They just kept selling out. After Adelaide, they then went on the West End of London, they went on Broadway, and they've been there ever since. So it's pretty amazing. And that is what the Adelaide Fringe is so fabulous at, is like launching people's careers. It's a fabulous sort of a festival that people are scouting at. It's something I've been very careful to nurture, in my time there, is to make sure that we bring in people from all over the world to scout talent and book talent for the future, rather than just only their Adelaide Fringe season, but they actually get booked to go on tour.
Yes, because the Fringe now is really a worldwide touring circuit in its own self.
Yeah, so I mean, Adelaide Fringe is 56 years old, and Edinburgh Fringe is 70 years old.
That's frightening, because I remember the first Adelaide Festival of Arts, and the Fringe didn't start then, though. It was
about 1 or 2 years later. Yes. Yeah, so the Adelaide Fringe, Edinburgh Fringe, and a few others have been around for a long time. And so up until about 10 years ago, there was really only about 12 Fringe festivals in the world. And in the last 10 years, over 200 new Fringe festivals have been born on the world. So we now have, nearly 250 Fringe festivals. So yes, it is a circuit that people can just go on. And so you have to sort of make your Fringe the most artist-friendly that you can, because why would they choose to come to your Fringe? Why would the artist come to choose yours?
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Do you feel there are too many shows because it's not a curated festival?
No, I think, the whole nature of a Fringe is that it's open access. So the Fringe model was born out of a desire for freedom of expression for artists that wasn't being curated in the same way that the big sort of high art festivals were. So Adelaide Fringe was born exactly the same way Edinburgh Fringe was, which was that local artists and beyond wanted to have a go and get on stage, but they weren't being selected. So they said, okay, we'll do it ourselves. And that's what the spirit of the Fringe is all about. We could never change that. I think that would really be contaminating the pure open access nature of the Fringe.
Well, it's fascinating for both audiences and for the performers as well, because audiences can see something they have no idea of what they're going to see, take a risk.
Yeah.
But from the performer's point of view, as you know, I run a venue, so I get the same questions. You know, how can we guarantee we're going to fill the house? Well, the answer is you can't. And what you've got to do is you've got to go out and work your show to the audiences who are interested in seeing a show. So if that's leafleting or getting on programs like ours or whatever to talk about what you've got.
That's right. And I mean, the art of flyering is now, you know, very sophisticated. So when you do your flyering in the streets of Adelaide, you make an art form of it because there's a lot of other people flyering as well. So you want to stand out. And that's what you see in Edinburgh as well. I mean, we had 1,000 shows approximately in the Fringe this year. We sold 660,000 tickets, which is just mind-boggling. It's just unbelievable that does make us the biggest ticket arts festival in the country. Ticket selling, we're the biggest arts festival in Australia based on how many tickets we sell, and it's by a very long shot. So in Edinburgh, they, you know, have worked a lot on building their tourist numbers because now, see, they had 3,000 shows last year. So, I mean, we have to now work on that as well. We have to say, look, Adelaide transforms into the whole city is a festival canvas for that month, and it is unlike any other time of year. And so we need to make a tourism message of that and make sure that more and more tourists come in, because that's what Edinburgh's done to make sure that we get more and more people buying tickets over there.
Now, I do have to ask you, sorry, but the hair.
Yes, oh yes, the hair. Well, it's a bit faded now. It was green and pink this year. Well, the poster this year was green and pink.
Yeah.
So it all started last year when we had a pink poster. So I decided to go pink hair. And then we got a green and pink poster this year. So then I went green and pink. So now...
Orange next year, do you think?
I don't know what colour the poster will be because our poster is a competition. So, I mean, who knows? It could be anything. I could have any colour.
I've just got one last question for you. What do you want to do when you grow up, do you think?
Well, I don't want to grow up too quickly. No, I would like to do a few more festivals, and I love making people have fun. That's the Adelaide Fringe. Everyone just has such a great time, and it's the happiest time of year. And so it's going to be a hard one to follow. What will I do after that? Because once you've done the Fringe, where do you go
next? Well, it's been just great to meet you and to have a chat with you. And
thanks.
Great success for next year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
2018 Fringe. Make a film on that.
We'll be back with
Dan Burt, his one-man band. Welcome back.
Malcolm. Our next guest is this man.
There's not a boogie there!
And here he is, the amazing Dan Burt.
Welcome.
Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you very much.
Welcome to OurTime, Dan. You've had a fascinating career.
I would say that, and I'm still amazed. It's been 35 years, the one-man band, and the balloons and the Dobbins and the travelling, and it's been absolutely marvellous.
But you've worked all over Australia, and I can't think of your name without putting one-man band after it, and I can't think of one-man band without putting your name before it. Because Dan Burt and his one-man band, I think a good population in Australia would have grown up seeing you at either a royal show or in some sort of atmosphere performing situation. And just in case you've forgotten, this is what this is how Dan started. And there's another very familiar face in this photograph playing guitar on the right-hand side. It's Glyn Nicholas.
And I thought that was.
And this is...
Busking protest to get it legalised, early 80s.
Because Glyn was a used to do a lot of busking, didn't he?
Oh, yes.
But then he ended up on
the ABC doing his own show.
But he did Humphreys for a while.
Oh, he did.
Didn't
He was on his Humphrey for a while.
The 1980s
and these, of course, Dan, are shots of you with the band, your own one-man band. I see the drums getting smaller as you're getting older.
It is. Dobbin the Wonder Horse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pity about your legs.
Front cover of People magazine. A long time ago.
And you're one of the rare piano accordion. No, it's not piano.
Well, it's a button accordion, but it's accordion.
An accordion player.
Yeah.
So Dan, what makes somebody want to be a one-man band?
I have no idea, except I saw no one else was doing it. I was studying for my first degree at Adelaide Uni and living on McKinnon Parade, and I built this thing out the back, in between work, and. I thought, why isn't anyone else doing this? Surely someone's going to do this. Busking was taking off, this sort of stuff. And to my amazing, you get the odd one pop up. No, they're still not doing it, Malcolm.
But clearly with your accent, you didn't come from here originally.
No, my dear. I come from West Country of England, my dear.
Exactly. Well, there would have been more people doing that type of thing there. Do you remember that as a little girl, seeing a one-man band on the pier or something?
Yeah, probably, on the holidays.
I think beyond the one-man band, I saw the end of the piano in the pub in England era when I was about 15 or 16. Right. That's affected me a lot.
What were you doing in a pub at 15?
Well, there you go. But the whole bar singing on a Friday, Saturday night, old Jim on the piano, who died a couple of years after, and then they started cleaning the pubs up and the pianos went. I had fascination with piano. I still have a fascination with pianos now, but those eras of being exposed to this community music and all this great fun and everything were really important. And I think I may have mentioned at one stage, I was taken to things like Gilbert and Sullivan operas as a child. We were farmers, but I got taken to these amazing things, which music and Paul Robeson and stuff when I was a kid. And Dad used to sing and stuff, but we were farmers. But I got these opportunities to be immersed in the best stuff in the world, which has stayed with me for life, and I think that's encouraged me to continue what I've done as a performer.
Was there anybody that sort of inspired the concept of the one-man band, though? Did you see somebody, as we were just saying before?
It was, what's his name? With a drum on the back, he had a hit song called Rosie in England, and it got to the top #1 in the charts. And the guy was living in Sweden when I found out in the 1980s. I found he was living in Sweden. I spoke to someone in the Solomon Islands, and they said, not Don Partridge. Yeah, was it? Yeah. And I always remembered that on Top of the Pops in England when I was a kid. I thought, oh, that's good. Big drum, guitar.
Isn't that amazing?
And the idea, it's a very romantic notion. One-man bands are really romantic. But as I say, I think, I've always said to people, you have to get one instrument working really well, so if you forget about it, the rest works. But I'm still astounded. I don't know if people don't want to work or they're not interested. It's a fine skill, but at the same token, it's amazing, as you can see, an amazing image.
It is, but also a huge
and one that worked really well for me.
Yes, but a huge energy taker too, because every part of your body's got to work.
And not just that. People say, oh, this and that. I said, no. I've told people now, and I tell them now with playing music, you've got to get that down so it's like riding a bike, completely second nature. Sure. The French material I'm working on now, it's got to be second nature so I can actually... So with the band, I can play it and talk to people, but the main thing I do when I'm playing the band, I've got eye contact. I'm meeting people as I'm playing. That makes
like
a difference.
Like driving a car, isn't it? It's that muscle memory thing or
Well,
whatever.
It's also relation, telling stories to people, giving them an image. It's not just playing it. Anyone can do that. It's actually... entertaining them, and there's the difference, you know.
But there's been a completely different side to your life, because was your trade a boilermaker?
No, I trained as an engineer at Rolls-Royce on the aero engine division in Bristol.
No.
I never finished the apprenticeship, but it was marvellous training, and I had cars and Austin 7s, which I've got my first car back, by the way. It's up in my shed at the moment, my Austin 7. Anyway, beside the point, but I went on to be a fitter and a mechanic and all this sort of stuff in my 20s.
Right, that's what's
I also,
in my head.
I emigrated in 1972 and by myself into Melbourne, and hooked into the folk scene, and the music started happening with the accordion. But
why did you come then by yourself? What brought you to Australia?
I had to do it.
Wanderlust.
It was scary, but I think it was also I could see no future for me in England. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. I can only say, looking back, I'm interested in culture. I'm interested in myth and legend. I can only say it was a young man getting onto the horse and going out to quest and proving himself in the world, which which we don't do in our culture normally, but the Aboriginal people do it very well.
Well, I've known you for a long time, and you're sort of like an old soul come back to relive it all.
I think so.
Ways.
But I had to get out and do something, you know, and I also decided in my 20s to live an interesting life. I decided that, which means engineering and the arts, it doesn't matter. I wanted to do stuff, and then took my first degree at LA Uni and went on to what I'm doing.
But you're also, to describe you to somebody, apart from being a one-man band, you're sort of a tinkerer.
Oh, yeah.
Something that's sort of been lost from our whole vernacular, because we don't repair anything, we don't remake
throw it
things.
away and get a new one.
Exactly. But as long as I've known you, you've always been tinkering with something.
Well, my mother said nothing's ever wasted, and I realised when I built the band that I'm an engineer. I can do stuff. I can design stuff. I'm a tech studies teacher too, as you might know, but I can design stuff. But the challenge is there. If I can't do it, someone says you can't do that, I say watch me. You know? But it's really a headspace. So with a one-man band, I combine the engineering skills, because no one else can really build something that works. Yeah. With the music skills, with the performance and drama skills, which relate to my degree, and also along with cultural skills, because I'm interested in society and culture. And you put that all together, it's not wasted. Nothing's wasted. It comes out as the one-man band.
But that's very much you, though. You've always encompassed your interests and sort of turned them into something that's useful.
I have, you're right.
And also been very practical with the things you've done, like the restoration of the vehicles, the houses you've done, all of those bits and pieces along. I mean, we use it. I don't know if people use the expression. Do you use the expression bibs and bobs anymore?
Yeah. No, well, not probably anymore, but I remember the expression bibs and bobs.
But Dan still uses that because he's still bibs and bobsing.
Renaissance man, that's what I decided to be.
Okay.
I can do anything. And look, that's a great thing. When I became a teacher in the year 2000, I qualified as a tech studies teacher and hated it. But teaching little kids, particularly with my accordion, I did a lot of music and drama. But I was able to inspire them, from my experiences, to want to learn.
You found a way to communicate.
And I don't care what the subject is. Let's do something interesting. And that's what kids in the hills say now. Mr. Burt, I must have taught you at school, you know. One day or something. I only had him for one day. You're a good teacher. I said, what is that? I said, you made it interesting. Yeah. I'm a renegade teacher. I'm not one of these, I can't handle the curriculum stuff, but I would go and do interesting things with kids, and that's the only way I learned stuff in life, when I saw something happen as a child.
Hold that thought. I've got another question. We just have to go for a short break.
Yes.
Can you stand it?
Yes.
We'll be back. Welcome back.
Yes.
With Dan Bird, our special guest in this program. Dan, people probably have seen you at a Royal show if they haven't seen you in other performance things. How long did you do in the shows?
Well, the Adelaide Royal show, 35 years. We only finished recently. Look, 20... And
in the background here is...
That's Alice the Volkswagen. 289,000 miles I did in that car for $50. She became famous. Mount Barker pageant, relatively recently, with a smaller drum. And there's me at the Central Market, 6.5 years at the Central Market. Where can you get a gig like that?
It's quite right. Adelaide has the most unique little market, and it really is a boutique market, I suppose. Yeah, but it's in the greater scheme of things. But people like you brought the place alive. So these are the things you've done in your past. What are you doing in the future?
Well, in the future, I've semi-retired from the actual performance stuff, but I'm working very hard on my accordion, particularly the French music. And I've become a bit of a Francophile, so I'm working on that. I'm now living in Aldgate, but I'm trying. I like the French culture. I hadn't been to France for 40 years until a couple of years ago, and then I went for 6 days in Paris.
That's where you got the hat, right?
I did, indeed. Indeed. And I've got the stripy jumper, which is not naff. It's actually part of, you know, the French accordionists wear them. I thought I'll get one of those too.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so I'm working very hard on my music, seriously hard at the moment to get good. People say you're good. I said, no, I'm listening to the greats of French accordion and going, you know, like this. So I'm doing that. I'm working on my cars. I briefly mentioned before, I'll keep it very short, 1929 Austin 7, bought 1965 for £2.10 when I was 15, pushed it back to the farm, drove it around England and everything, sold it in 1975 after going to France in it with the club, and bought it back again 2 years ago from an old friend.
Isn't that brilliant?
So I've got
Isn't that amazing?
crystals in the shed at the moment, so things like that.
Crystals in the shed.
Crystals in the shed. Look, we almost have to go, but we'd just like to remind you that you can watch this program and, in fact, any of our programs on YouTube, but you can also download the apps for all of the stations around Australia, and here are the stations, so that you can continue to watch this show if community television leaves the airwaves. So until next time on Our Time.
Yes, keep yourself safe and well. Thank you for joining us.
And thank you very much, Dan. It's been great to have you as a guest. And
thank
keep
you.
yourself nice. For us too. Keep yourself nice until next time we meet.
Get down a boogie there!